Coming to you from an undisclosed location, somewhere deep in the heart of the Santa Monica Mountains. I'm your intrepid host, Marzulli. Welcome here. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, members, for your continued support. Really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. We do a show every day, so don't wait for YouTube to tell you there's a new show, because they will do that. But we do a new show here every day right on our YouTube channel. We want to thank YouTube for this incredible platform. Also, don't forget to sign up for Rumble, because God forbid something happens on YouTube, we will continue the shows right here on Rumble. But first, here's a word from our trusted sponsor. Let me ask you something. If you built up $100,000 or more in investments, do you really want all of it riding on the stock market? Think about it. Banks, billionaires, even entire countries are loading up on physical gold and silver. Why? Because when markets swing, real assets hold their value. That's why I want to tell you about Noble Gold Investments. They make it simple to own investments-grade gold and silver, the same kind the big players are buying. And you can actually hold it in your hand or put it safely in your retirement account. You've worked hard to build your wealth. Isn't it time you protected it? Noble Gold is family-owned, trusted by thousands, and ranked #1 in gold IRAs 4 years in a row. Their precious metal specialists are standing by to answer your questions and walk you through every step. Simple, safe, easy. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com today. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. It's time to protect what you built. Folks, gold right now is at an all-time high, $34.91. $3,491 as of September 1st, 2025. Peggy and I invested in it a few years ago. I am really glad we did. Once again, that's noblegoldinvestments.com, noblegoldinvestments.com. So here's the Eric Metaxas interview. It's pretty cool, and it was an honor to be on his show, and I'll weigh in at the end of it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Eric Metaxas Show. It's named after me, Eric Metaxas. It's the Eric Metaxas Show. We are a podcast, we're on the radio, but you can watch the show on my YouTube channel. I recommend watching it on my YouTube channel. Why? Because there's some visual things that you don't pick up on the radio or on the podcast. For example, I'm very excited to speak to my guest back on the program, back by popular demand, L.A. Marzulli. L.A., welcome back.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me back on. Appreciate it.
Now, the visual stuff, for example, because, you can't pick this up on the radio, folks. If you don't go to my YouTube channel, you're not going to see behind L.A., not making it up, is a misshapen skull. A misshapen skull. L.A., can you explain the misshapen skull next to you?
I would love to. This skull is a model, a one-to-one model created by Joe Taylor. It came out of Paracas, Peru. Notice the great elongation. We've done extensive DNA testing on it. And here's a couple of things that, which should just blow your audience's mind. First of all, the haplogroup, the mitochondrial DNA, comes from the Middle East. Now that rewrites history. We've done carbon-14 dating and the C14 dating. It's about 1,935 years ago. So that's obviously pre-Columbian.
Okay, now hold on a second. I love the fact that you felt the need to say, notice the oblong shape. Anybody who is looking at that skull and does not notice the oblong shape is blind. That is the freakiest looking thing. I mean, that's one of the freakiest things I've ever seen in my life. So you're telling me, because you're so into this, and I find this when I'm talking to people on that program, people are so into this, they don't appreciate that it takes a few seconds for people to take this in. You said that skull that you're holding is not a real skull, but it's a replica of a real skull.
Correct.
Discovered when and where by whom?
There's a graveyard near Paracas, Peru, and I want to thank Senior Juan Navarro and Brian Forrester for getting us there. This goes back to 2013, so it's over a decade ago. And when you're there, it's one of the driest places on Earth. It's all sand dunes as far as you can see. It gets less than a quarter of an inch of rain a year. So it's a perfect place for burials. There are burials throughout that Chongo's necropolis, because it is a necropolis. And the Wakaros, the grave robbers, go in and dig this stuff up, and then they sell it to the museums. In fact, the Wakaros, the grave robbers, were the first ones that found these and showed the Peruvian archaeologist, Senor Teo, about this. And then he went out and procured some of these elongated skulls.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
So you're telling me there's more than one. There are many of these elongated.
Oh my gosh, we discovered 3. I mean, we were in the Chongos necropolis, and we were going out of the area, and I go, "What the heck is that?" And I go running up to it, and it's an elongated skull. Brian goes up to the right to where the burial was. There's 2 more there. The Wakaros do this. They don't have them all. I mean, this went on for years. But here's the deal. Modern day archaeologists will insist, oh, this is all the result of cranial deformation, cradle headboarding. When you take the head of an infant and you wrap it and bind it and create an elongated skull, and we get that. I've seen the ones, and I can tell the difference, that are cranial deformation, or the ones that aren't. First of all, look at the orbits, the eyes right here. The orbits are about 20 to 25% larger than a human being. There is no sagittal suture. This is a suture right here. You can see it. So this is a suture. It should be going from the frontal plate right here and splitting the occipital plate, going back to the occipital plate. Let me do it again. Splitting the parietal plates in 2. It doesn't do that.
Ladies and gentlemen, you need to sign up for the Eric Metaxas YouTube channel, because you're missing this. Because seriously, LA, this is crazy stuff. And I don't even know where you're going with this. But before you keep going, let me just ask you some questions. You said that there are a lot of these. Where are the actual skulls? Because what you're holding is a replica.
You can go to Senior Juan's Paracas Museum, Paracas History Museum in Paracas, Peru. You can go to the Teo Museum in Lima and see it there. You can go to the Ica Museum. We were at the Ica Museum, and we were the only people, well, on film anyway. We asked them to take out the very elongated Chongo skull. It's actually bigger than this. It's unbelievable. And
Okay, so again, you said that tests had been done on it, and what did the test say?
let me I'll throw something at you. Okay. We're still working this. We've got an artifact that came out of Bolivia. It's an elongated skull. The orbits are 25 to 30% larger. We've done extensive DNA testing on it, and we are doing more DNA testing on it to give you an idea of what we're looking at. And Neanderthal is 99.5% identical. Their DNA, Neanderthal DNA, is 99.5% identical to a modern day human. A gorilla and a chimpanzee is 98.5 identical to a modern day human. The Paracas skulls, the Bolivian skull, is 96.5. It's a completely different genome, and it's got our geneticists just baffled. It is unbelievable.
Now, how do you get DNA from a skull? I thought you needed living tissue.
No, you don't. A tooth is fine. The bone is fine. The DNA. Now,
Okay.
remember, if this thing is 2,000 years old, it's very degraded. Let me show you what the smoking gun is. And this is from our anthropologist on our team, Rick Woodward. This is the foramen magnum right here, okay? That white that you see is actually clay, so you could insert a dowel. So normally, none of that would be there. This white part here would not be there. This is the foramen magnum. It's all the way back to the rear part of the skull. If it's any further back to the occipital, it's outside the skull. It should be here, which would...
Okay, listen, you've made it clear that this is not like our skulls, but you have to answer my question. What do you know so far? What is it?
What is it?
Well, you earlier made some comments about the dating. You said pre-Columbian. You said that this had come somehow not from that part of the world. So so talk about that.
Okay, what our hypothesis, scientific method, our hypothesis is this: that when Joshua and Caleb come into the promised land, 3,000, 3,500 years.
LA, listen, you before you say this, it's not going to make sense until you repeat what you said at the beginning of the program. You said the dating and the origin.
Right. Okay, so the dating from the carbon-14 dating is 1,935 years.
Okay. So that's one important piece of information, that you're talking about something that is 1,200 years old. That's number one. Number two, origin.
Almost 2,000 years old, not 1,200. 1,935 years old.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. 2,000 years old. Keep going.
And then the DNA, which has come back, the mitochondrial DNA shows an origin. Mitochondrial from the female side of the equation, mother side of the equation, shows a haplogroup, the origin in the Middle East. That rewrites history, Eric. It rewrites history. That shouldn't be there.
But I'm saying that's the headline. I needed you to repeat that because that's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
Is this our first segment, guys? This is our first segment, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so LA, we've got plenty time, but what you have just shared with us, just now in the beginning of the show, based on what is behind you, is already so fascinating. This is what happens, folks, when you're talking to LA Marzulli. And again, you've got to subscribe to my YouTube channel because I didn't expect to have all these visuals, but we'll be right back. Welcome back, folks. Talking to LA Marzulli, Marzulli. Did I get it?
That's it.
Okay. The book that you and I spoke about, your book on this program last time, is called Rungs of Disclosure. Rungs of Disclosure. We're going to get into that. But right now, we're just talking about the freakishly misshapen skull behind you. And so what is your sense of what it is? Now that you say, okay, it looks like somehow these people were from the Middle East.
They are.
It looks like this is about 2,000 years ago. The skulls are, these are dramatically misshapen. So it's impossible for us. It's impossible for me to speculate on what this could be. So what do you think it is? You don't have to know, but what is your guess?
Well, our hypothesis is simply this. 3,500 years ago, when Joshua and Caleb pressed the conquest of Canaan, the Nephilim tribes were in the promised land. The Zanzamim, the Emims, the Nephilim, the Raphaim, okay, they're all there. The Anakim, meaning long necks, they're all there in the promised land. As Joshua and Caleb...
Anakim means the long necks?
Anakim means long necks, correct. The Zanzumim, the buzzing ones. There's all these different tribes, which I believe denote certain genetic characteristics. We also know that there was a Western diaspora of these tribes. They fled the promised land. How do we know this? There's a stele, which the historian Procopius records, and it says this, and it's found on the north shore of Africa. What's that doing there? We are those who fled from the face of Joshua, the son of Nun, the robber. Joshua the robber, the son of Nun.
Okay, hang on. I've never heard about that. There's a stele that was found in the north of Africa, and what is that called?
Procopius, the historian Procopius records it. He saw it, and he wrote it down. He wrote down what it said, and it basically said, we are they who fled from the face of Joshua, the robber, the son of Nun. And so we know, look, I've been doing this forever, and we know that there's a Western expansion of these entities because they set up shop. They go to Cyprus, they go to Gozo, they go to Malta, Sardinia, the island of Sicily. Then they go further in the Mediterranean. They go into Spain, Menga, Spain, the largest dolmen on the planet. It'll blow your mind, just blow your mind. And then they
go largest what on the planet?
Largest dolmen. A dolmen is uprights like this with a huge slab of stone. And then it goes into Portugal and Spain and France, 80,000 standing stones at Karnak. Then it goes into England. Then it comes over here. This is why I'm on the trail of a Nephilim. And they were in Peru 3,500 years ago because of the DNA testing that we've done.
Okay, now listen, LA, it's my job.
Hold my feet to the fire, Eric.
It's my job. No. That is my job. I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is it's my job just to comment and say, like, there are a lot of people listening to this program or watching this on YouTube who are saying, what the heck is this guy talking about? you say stuff like we're supposed to just gloss over it because to you this is old hat. When you talk about Nephilim, that's number one. Wait a minute, what? Okay, we'll give you Nephilim. Now they're going westward, and you're saying that we have records of them going westward. Are you saying that we have strange skulls? What is the record of the Nephilim? What is any record of the Nephilim? In other words, for people, because I'm saying this not because I doubt you. You know that I respect you, but I want my audience to be tracking and not just to say, I heard something on the radio and I don't know. How do we know, the Nephilim existed, and how do we know they moved westward? And then the third question, how did they get across the Atlantic Ocean?
Okay, let's work backwards. So Thor Heyerdahl creates a papyrus, a copy of an ancient papyrus sailing ship. He's got one sail, no compass, no navigational anything, okay?
Okay, excuse me. Ladies and gentlemen, LA is talking about something that happened in the late 40s. An explorer, a Norwegian explorer named Thor Heyerdahl. I have seen his wax effigy in the Thor Heyerdahl Museum when I visited Norway, Oslo. And yes, he built, this was famous. I remember when I was a kid in the early 70s,
right,
that he built these balsa wood rafts, or not balsa wood, these rafts made of reeds, because he had a theory that it was possible to travel across oceans, that primitive people were able to do that. So that, I guess, is that what you're saying happened?
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, you kind of stole my thunder, but that's okay. Look, Thor Heyerdahl builds this papyrus boat, and there's no navigation equipment. He puts up a sail. He sails out essentially from the Strait of Gibraltar at the end of the Mediterranean Sea. He winds up in the island of Barbados. That's the New World. He proved that you could do this. And if he can do it, others did it. And there was a migration. Look, you talk about the Nephilim. So who are the Nephilim? The Nephilim are the progeny of fallen angels and human women. How do we know this? Genesis 3:15. The dragon is in the garden. Adam and Eve are over here. The pre-incarnate Christ says to the dragon, your seed, your offspring, will be at war, at enmity with the seed of the woman. The seed of the woman, the proto-evangelium, will crush your head, your bruises heel. That's the entire Bible. 3 chapters later, Genesis 6, the Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward when the B'nai Elohim, the sons of God, saw the daughters of men and took wives, it's plural, and had children by them. Folks, it's the seed war. Genesis 3:15, it goes right back to that. So what we're looking at, and this is what's amazing, when Joshua and Caleb are there at the gates of the promised land, the Nephilim tribes are there, and the seed of Abraham, which will come, the Mashiach, the Messiah, is there. It is absolutely, profoundly a cosmic moment. And of course, Joshua and Caleb pushed the Nephilim tribes out.
Okay, so I want to get into all this stuff, but I want to also move along here. So how do we know that? I mean, I can accept the existence of the Nephilim. I have no problem with that. That's biblical, and we're speculating to some extent, but it sounds right. The idea that it is conceivable that ancient peoples or sort of peoples like Nephilim could have gotten across the ocean, the Atlantic, in a westward direction, that seems conceivable. How do we know, as you are saying, that there was a westward expansion in Europe and North Africa of the Nephilim, other than the one stele that you cited?
You see, on every single island that I mentioned, and I can name them again, and everything, a western expansion into Spain, Portugal, France, England, and then over here, we see the same type of construction. We see ancient megalithic works that make no sense at all. They show up a couple of thousand years ago, and then the builders just vanish. They create places like America's Stonehenge, right here in New Hampshire. I've been to the site numerous times. These sites are built on an 18-and-a-half-year metonic cycle, 18-and-a-half-year lunar cycle. Native Americans didn't know about that. There's these incredible earthworks in the Ohio Valley and all throughout the Americas. We're talking 450,000 tons of earth. That's Cahokia, the largest mound. 450,000 tons of earth. we are looking at the fingerprints of the supernatural, but mainstream archaeology doesn't like that. Giants were discovered. This is the picture that I discovered in the museum on Catalina. What you are looking at is a 9-footer, circa 1919, 1921. The guy with the shovel is Ralph Glidden. He's the guy that was hired by the Hay Museum. The hay got gobbled up by the Smithsonian, and he discovered this giant. It's roughly 9 feet tall. What's that?
Where's the skeleton of that giant?
Well, that's the whole thing, Eric. Eric, the Smithsonian has run roughshod over this stuff. I mean, they have a paradigm and they stick to it. So many of the, and we've got.
Are you saying you think that they have it?
Oh, absolutely. They've got, maybe not this skeleton, but they've got other giant skeletons that were exhumed. How do we know this? Because you've got doctors and lawyers talking about, wow, we dug up this giant and the Smithsonian came because we wanted them to come and we gave them the bones, and I didn't ever hear anything more about it. And there's a reason for it, Eric, because all this happens after the Darwinian paradigm. And giant bones don't fit into the Darwinian paradigm.
Bingo.
They fit back into the biblical prophetic narrative. And the Smithsonian has a religion, and that religion is Darwinism.
Yeah. No, there's no doubt about that. That's exactly right. So you're in New Hampshire. I forgot about that.
America Stonehenge.
No, I said you're in New Hampshire.
No. I'm in California.
You okay? Because I was going to say, for some reason I thought you were in California, but you're talking about the quote unquote American Stonehenge. In what part of New Hampshire is that?
It's right near Salem. I've been to the site numerous times. It's built on an 18.5-year metonic cycle, and I'll show you something. Which, if you there's what's called the summer solstice standing stone. Let me see if I can.
You know what, LA, we're going to go to a break here. Folks, we'll be right back. If you are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, I didn't expect so many visuals, but just go to Eric Metaxas YouTube, my YouTube channel, and we're posting all this stuff. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I am enjoying speaking to L.A. Marzulli. I hope you're enjoying the conversation nearly as much as I am. Incredible stuff, L.A., because you bring the goods. It's not like, you're not blowing smoke. It doesn't mean that people can't disagree or have questions, but it's so fascinating to me what you're talking about. Your book, your most recent book, is Rungs of Disclosure. Have you written a book where you talk about what we're discussing right now?
Yeah, and I'm gonna show you this. It's called On the Trail of the Nephilim. It's a huge book. It makes a great paperweight. But
On the Trail of the Nephilim.
And I'm going to show you something which hopefully will just blow your mind, because I know it blows my mind. It's the place in New Hampshire. It's called America Stonehenge. And there's Kelsey Stone was a college student, and he knew about the summer solstice standing stone. And so America Stonehenge, there's the summer solstice standing stone. And that summer solstice standing stone, when the rising sun of the summer of the equinox, the solstice, summer solstice, the sun comes right down. Let me use a prop here. The sun comes right down and sets right behind that stone. All right, right behind the stone. So there's a viewing platform, the center of the henge. The henge is a circle. America Stonehenge has all these standing stones all around it. And at first, no one knew what they were for. Then somebody said, I wonder if they're aligned to the equinoxes or the solstices. Well, they are. So Kelsey Stone gets on Google Earth, and he goes from the center of the henge out to the summer solstice standing stone, and he draws a line. The line, he continues the line on Google Earth, and now he's across the Atlantic Ocean, and he continues, and this is what happens. That line bifurcates the two standing stones in Stonehenge, England.
You're blocking the microphone with the book there. You said that he drew a line, and that the line goes all the way from where he was in New Hampshire to Stonehenge in England.
Correct.
So I guess the logical takeaway is that the same people who made the one made the other.
Well, isn't that interesting? There's definitely a connectivity. And what you're looking at is spherical trigonometry. The Earth is a sphere. So you just can't draw a straight line. You've got to know the curvature of the Earth. And in order to do that, you've got to triangulate from the air. Who is the prince of the power of the air? Now, when you show this to an archaeologist or a surveyor, and I've done both, the archaeologist goes, well, it must be a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. We have found that there's this connectivity. And in our film, America Stonehenge, we call it it's sort of like the axis mundi. It's the center of the world. Why? Because not only does a line from the Standing Stone, 2 points, go to Stonehenge, England, it also goes to Teotihuacan, Mexico. It also goes to Machu Picchu in Peru, the Canary Islands, the Giza Pyramid. I mean, this is mind-blowing stuff, Eric. And what are these? These are the fingerprints of the supernatural. This is why we're on the trail of a Nephilim.
What? But wait a minute.
Yeah.
You're making leaps because there are people listening that they're not going to be tracking. When you say the supernatural, the Nephilim don't need to be supernatural. In other words, you're talking about, you're theorizing the existence of, natural creatures, right?
They are not natural. They are hybrid entities. They are part fallen angel, part human women. They are soulless, in my opinion.
Soulless.
They have no soul. Now that's conjecture. I'll admit that, but they are in a fixed state. They cannot be redeemed, and they are the progeny of fallen angels and the human women of earth. This is Genesis 3:15, and then finally,
but they are not. But they're not demons.
Demons. This is a really complex deal. Demons are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim that were destroyed in the flood. Fallen angels are not demons. Demons are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim destroyed in the flood. Goliath is a Nephilim. His brothers are Nephilim, the progeny of fallen angels and human women. And they're doing this over and over and over again. There's an interesting picture.
Isn't Nephilim the plural?
Well, when you overlay the book of Enoch with the Genesis 6 narrative, chapter 6 from Enoch, chapter 6 from the King James Bible, it reads word for word. The Nephilim, yes, were on the earth in those days and also afterwards. It reads exactly the same.
But I'm saying if I say the Hasidim,
yeah, that's plural.
Right. So what's the singular of Nephilim?
Nephil.
What?
Nephal.
Nephal? A single Nephal, various Nephilim. I want to get this straight because, we're going to be talking about this a lot here. This is fascinating stuff. Well, so let's go back. So the skull that you're holding up, the replica of the skull, you're postulating that the actual skull is the skull of a Nephilim figure.
One of the tribes. And I've even gone so far, and I was actually set to do this. We were set to go to Israel right before October 7th. And I had connections to an Israeli archaeologist to let me see the skulls that came out of Tel Gezer. Tel Gezer is an ancient Canaanite site with a 20-foot tunnel. And this is all on film. I went to the archaeologist and said, why does a 5'6" Canaanite guy need a 20-foot high tunnel? Yeah, we're still trying to figure that out. So, but the Horites lived underground. Now, not all the Nephilim tribes did, but the Horites did.
Excuse me, so the Horites are a tribe of the Nephilim?
Correct. These Paracas skulls, and I've been to the site in the reserve outside of Paracas, Peru. They lived underground, Eric.
You know what? I'm so sorry. We're going to another break, folks. We'll be right back talking to L.A. Marzulli. Welcome back, folks. Talking to L.A. Marzulli. Those are his initials, L.A., and he lives in California. Do you live in L.A.?
I live in the Santa Monica Mountains, north of Los Angeles.
Close enough. Okay, so, again, very fascinating stuff. People can read about this in your book, On the Trail of the Nephilim. When did that book come out?
Oh, the book's been out for a while. It's voluminous. There's actually 8 films that we've made on the trail of the Nephilim.
And where can people find those films?
You can go to streaming.lamarzulli.net, streaming.lamarzulli.net, lamarzulli.com. That's the main website.
Okay.
Hop around from there.
So, have you gotten much traction on this? Because this is so deeply fascinating.
Yes and no. Most of the church won't deal with it because most of the church cling to the Sethite theory. And that's what they're taught. Pastors coming up in seminary hold on and they're taught the Sethite theory. Let's walk through that. So when Jesus is saying that it'll be like the days of Noah 2,000 years ago, everybody knows what he's talking about. How do we know that? Because Josephus, the first century Jewish historian, tells us in his very colorful work that the bones of the Nephilim were openly on display in Jerusalem at the time of his writing, first century. So when Jesus goes, "We like the days of Noah when I return," everybody knows what he's talking about. Everyone. Oh, you mean the Nephilim are going to be here? Yeah, the Nephilim are going to be here. Again? Oh, yeah, again. Then in the 4th century, you get this guy, Julius Africanus, who comes up and they don't like what Genesis says. They don't like the idea of a seed war, and they come up with the Sethite theory, which is this. The godly line of Seth, right, married the hoochie mamas of Cain, and the rest is history, and created these hybrids. But that's not what the text says. The B'nai Ha-Elohim, the fallen angels, came down. This is why Genesis 3:15 is paramount in our discussion. Pastors don't know this. They're not taught this for the most part. They're taught the Sethite theory. So all this has been dumbed down. You know, Eric, if you were, I'm going to put my tinfoil hat here, put my tinfoil hat on. This is Conspiracy 101. But think about this. You keep that away from pastors, and the people, they have no idea what's going on. You have no idea, because when you get to Jesus's words, well, what do you mean the days of Noah? And then the exegesis is ridiculous. Oh, they were eating and drinking. And Who are they? Who are they? It's not human beings. It's the fallen ones.
Well, where do we go from here? You were, you wanted to bring up, I think it was Anna Paulina Luna, who's a congresswoman. She was on Joe Rogan talking about something recently.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to leapfrog from the Nephilim and the machinations of the fallen angels into what is happening in modernity. So it's all sourced in the same place. It all comes out of Hell's Kitchen, all of it. There's a very nefarious agenda. So Anna Paulina Luna is on the Joe Rogan show, and she's talking about UFOs / UAPs, and she's stating on the record that they believe that this phenomena is interdimensional, not extraterrestrial. That's my wheelhouse. I've been doing this for 40 years, for crying out loud. That's my wheelhouse. And that's what they are. They're not friendly ETs from some faraway galaxy. They are interdimensional entities with a very nefarious agenda.
All right. So I remember in the 90s, not long after I had come to faith, I was reading the books of Hugh Ross. He's been on this program a bunch of times, and he was postulating the same thing, that and I've said the same thing myself. It doesn't make sense that UFOs are extraterrestrials, because if you know enough about science, you know that the emergence of life apart from God is not possible. So if you have a Darwinian view, you say, oh, life is just popping up everywhere. It's just what happens. That's complete nonsense. I write about it in my book, Is Atheism Dead?, which I recommend, ladies and gentlemen, because you need to know this stuff. There is no way that life just emerges. And so if life just doesn't emerge anywhere on planet Earth or anywhere else, what are UFOs? And you are saying, and what Hugh Ross was saying, and now you said that this young woman on Joe Rogan is saying, that they are interdimensional. So yes, they are not simply aliens. There's something else going on. What Hugh Ross says and what you say and what I believe is that they are demonic.
Well, they are the source is demonic. The source is fallen angel activity. Daniel 2:43 says this: their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. Who are they? This is why the Genesis 3:15 scripture is so paramount in our discussion. If we don't get the proper exegesis, the proper interpretation of Genesis 3:15, when we arrive at Daniel 2:43, I don't know what he's talking about. And the angel tells Daniel, seal up the words in the book, Daniel, till the time of the end. And then he throws what I would call a supernatural cue. This is what the time of the end will look like. Men and women will run to and fro over the face of the earth. Knowledge will increase. We're here. It's happening. The mingling of the seed. We have a whole film on this. It's called the book is called Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest by Karen Wilkinson. She was an abductee. There is a breeding program that is going on just like the days of Noah. Gee, where did we hear that before? It'll be like the days of Noah when the Son of Man returns. So I'm not making this up. All I'm doing is connecting the dots. And it's here and it's happening. And get something else. People go, well, why do fallen angels need UFOs, Ole? Let's go into 2 Kings chapter 6, when Elijah is surrounded by the entire Syrian army, and his servant Gehazi is there. And we're all going to die, Gehazi. We're dead, and we're toast. And Elijah says, Lord, open his eyes. So he boots Gehazi out of the tent. Gehazi goes out. What does he see? I looked up above the Syrian army and saw the chariots of fire. So Gehazi has nothing in his vernacular, in his lexicon, to even interpret what he's seeing. He knows a chariot is a vehicle, and he knows fire, torchlight, oil lamps. And what does he see? He sees the chariot of fire. What the heck is a chariot of fire? Right there. That's exactly what it is. And they're moving above the Syrian army. And those are the good guys.
So you're saying that he's writing about what we would call UFOs, unidentified flying objects, something not of this world.
Correct.
But you are saying that the pilots are not aliens, but are actually, when we come back, I will let L.A. Clarify these things. Don't go away. Welcome back, talking to L.A. Marzulli. His many books on the trail of the Nephilim, Rungs of Disclosure. So L.A., you were just saying that the pilots or the passengers of what we think of as flying saucers, whatever they are, UFOs, are what?
Well, let me before I answer that, the church, we Christians have a very truncated view of the supernatural. So I'm going to give you one example before I answer the question. So the cherubim are placed on the east gate of Eden. Well, we don't know what happens to the southwest and north gate. They don't need to do that, but the cherubim are there. In between the cherubim is what? A flaming sword that turns every which way. What is a flaming sword that turns every which way? You're looking at this thing thousands of years ago, and you're trying to describe what you're seeing. No one is turning the sword. The cherubim are not turning it. It's turning by itself. That's supernatural technology. It's a lightsaber, Eric. Vroom, vroom, vroom. It's what it is. There's technology. Think about the breastplate of the high priest. The stones light up. The stones create a message. Think about the Ark of the Covenant. There is supernatural technology all throughout the biblical prophetic narrative, but we're blind to it. We have this truncated view of the supernatural. There are craft, and those craft, the good guys got them and the bad guys got them. And I don't have all the answers. Nobody.
Why do good guys need a craft? Why do angels need a craft? That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, let me ask you this. When Daniel prays and the angel is dispatched to Daniel, it takes him 21 days to get there. Why? And he's being restrained by this entity known as the Prince of Persia. Well, why can't he just do an end run? Why can't he just go around the Prince of Persia? He can't. He's got to go get Michael and reinforcements, and they fight. How do they fight? How do they fight? Obviously, the Prince of Persia is removed out of the way so the angel can get through. We're not told how they fight. Can angels be wounded? They can't be killed because they're immortal, but can they be wounded? Later on in the book of Revelation, when Michael fights with the devil and his angels, they're cast to earth. How does that work? They're not thumb wrestling. They're not arm wrestling. So they fight. And how do they fight? We don't know. The Bible is silent. But can they be wounded? In my opinion, absolutely. See, this is the problem. We've got this truncated view of the supernatural. And I get that. You know, we're told this much of a picture that's a lot bigger.
Well, it's so fascinating. I mean, you're speculating a lot, but I don't think that's bad. I mean, I think it's
speculating within the framework of the biblical prophetic narrative.
Right.
The good guys fight the Prince of Persia. They do something because the angel gets there finally. So, I mean, we're seeing this war between the angel. It's one of the few places in Scripture where the Lord allows us to see into what's really going on, and it's mind-boggling.
All right. We've got one segment after this one. So let me ask you, what about Bigfoot?
Bigfoot is a modern day Nephilim, in my opinion. There's
A modern day Nephilim.
modern day Nephilim, correct. It'd be like the days of Noah. Why should that surprise us? You know, this is they're cooked up.
But the simplest problem that exists with Bigfoot is, why can't we catch one? Why can't we find the bones of one?
Because they pop in and they pop out, Eric. They pop in and they pop out. How do I know that? Because I've been talking to too many people. They're here, and then I have a picture from the late Scott Carpenter, and I believe they killed him, but that's another story. He got too close. They killed him, and Bigfoot killed him. And they were knocking on the sides of his house. He called me up, L.A. They're up. They're at my house. They're banging on the walls at night. What do I do? We prayed, and it wasn't enough because he was in places where he shouldn't have been. But I digress.
Oh, my goodness. Forgive me. We're going to go to a break, folks. On the other side of the break, I continue talking to L.A. Marzulli. Continue my conversation with L.A. Marzulli. He has many books on the trail of the Nephilim, Rungs of Disclosure. So, L.A., you're saying stuff, and I'm just conscious of people in my audience going, what? So, on behalf of those people, you just you're postulating that what we call Sasquatch, Bigfoot, that they're real and that they are Nephilim. Okay, so that's conceivable, but you are saying that why would they ever pop in if they can pop in and pop out? In other words, you're saying that they are interdimensional.
They have the ability to pop in and pop out. They can materialize and dematerialize. I have a picture that Scott Carpenter gave me, all right? And he's walking, and he's got a camera facing behind him, all right? So he's walking this way, and the camera's facing behind him. In the background, you see a perfect circle, and then there's a Sasquatch on one knee, and guess what, Eric? It's got an elongated skull. It's got an elongated skull. I've got the picture. I'll send it to you.
This is a picture?
Yeah.
And can you email this to me?
I will email that to you. You see a perfect circle, and you see this entity on one knee, which is what they do when they materialize. I've also had witnesses talk about they're here, and they pop in, then they pop out. These are modern-day Nephilim. And, in 1966, when the Gimli-Patterson film, which is classic now, and I've got a frame-by-frame digitized version of it, you see it, and the thing turns like this. It's a female. So it's not a guy in a gorilla suit with breasts. It's a female. But since 1966, the population, 66, 67, the population of Bigfoot, Sasquatch, has gone up through the roof. They're everywhere, and they're popping in and popping out. This is conjecture. This is conjecture that the Bible talks about the therion, the beasts of the earth. And as my late Bible buddy Russ Dizdar used to say, we're not talking about hamsters and giraffes. So what the heck are the beasts of the earth? In my opinion, these are the beasts of the earth. And I want to say something, Eric, before, because we only got a few minutes. Some of you folks out there will be going, why do we need to know this? What does this have to do with salvation? It has nothing to do with salvation. Salvation is when we come to the Lord and we ask him into our heart. That's the shallow end of the pool. For the last 45 minutes, we're in the deep end of the pool. We are looking at and we are exposing the deception of the prince of the power of the air. That's what we're doing here. From the Nephilim, elongated skulls, UFOs, Sasquatch, all of this is cooked up in Hell's Kitchen. All of it.
Now you just said, now you don't mean Hell's Kitchen, New York. You mean in hell. Yeah. And I just want to be clear. I'm always, annotating, translating. Let me ask you, you said that your friend Scott Walker, you believe he was killed by Nephilim?
He was killed probably by the Sasquatch, which I believe are Nephilim. So there's a leap there. And it's Scott Carpenter, not Scott Walker.
I'm sorry. Where does Scott Carpenter, where did he live?
In the Midwest.
And how, was he bludgeoned? I'm not clear on what you're saying.
They have the ability, conjecture, but they have, how when a lion roars, a lion will put its mouth to the ground and roar, and there's a sound wave that goes through, and his prey is then immobilized. Same type of thing with Sasquatch. They can do what's called mind speak. They can communicate telepathically with you, but they also can send auditory sounds which will rupture your heart, your brain.
What did the coroner say was his cause of death?
Cerebral hemorrhage.
And when did he die? And how old was your friend Scott Carpenter?
I think he just turned 49 or 50. I'd have to check that. Very young. He's out to dinner with a girlfriend, and he stands up and he just keels over, and that's it. Now look, this is conjecture, but I believe that they took him out. I believe that they took him out based on everything I know.
And you said you were on the phone with him, and he said they're banging on my house.
Yeah, the Sasquatch were coming up to he had prayed around his property, and they would come up to the edges of the property and no further, because he was protected. Then something happened and he lost the protection. He stepped outside of the protective umbrella of the Lord. And that's when they were coming up and banging on the side of the house. There's another guy up in Canada who's doing the same thing. And a friend of mine, Gabriel, who's Native American, said something which really makes sense. Expose, but don't seek. Exposing something is one thing. That's our mission statement, to expose the deception of the prince of the power of the air, herald the return of Jesus. But don't go seeking. And I've learned that the hard way. You just, unless I have marching orders, I won't go anywhere. That's it. I need to hear from the Lord.
And what do you mean, don't go anywhere? In other words, that this is dangerous and that we have, listen, I have many friends who they do what we call spiritual warfare. They're praying against powers and principalities. And there really is a way to do that and a way not to do that. You can expose yourself foolishly,
Exactly.
because you are going up against tremendously powerful entities. And unless you're protected by the Lord, unless you understand that, you are foolish if you're stepping out and you don't know what you're getting into.
Well, exactly. A perfect example is this, and it's in one of our films, Secrets of the Supernatural, Voices from the Other Side. There's a serpent effigy in Ohio, and it's the largest serpent effigy on the planet. The serpent, it's in my book, Armor Trail of the Nephilim. The serpent has his jaws open like this, and in front of it is an egg. And I wrote a paper on this. This is Genesis 3:15. The seed of a dragon will be at war with the seed of the woman. It's like right screaming at you. And this serpent undulates through the Ohio countryside. Henry Gruber was called by the Lord to close down pagan altars, child sacrifice. And he's going home for Thanksgiving dinner. And he sees the sign Serpent Mound. And so he turns off and he goes to the Serpent Mound. It's the night before Thanksgiving. It's cold. There's nobody in the parking lot. He gets out. He sees the serpent effigy. He walks up to the head of the serpent, stands on the mound. This thing is huge. It's like hundreds of feet long, all right? And it undulates through the Ohio countryside. This is Nephilim architecture, fallen angel technology. And he does his prayer. And as he's walking off, Eric, spiritual warfare, he's hit in the solar plexus by an unseen object. He goes down. His knees come up. He can't move. And he's laying there and going, oh my gosh. And then it starts to snow. And I've seen this before. It starts to snow and he realizes, I'm going to freeze to death. They're going to, because he can't move. He's paralyzed. And he's calling out to the Lord. And the Lord said, finally, I didn't tell you to go here, Henry. I didn't tell you to come here. This is the sin of presumption. And so Henry repents. The Lord frees him. He gets back to the van. He's half frozen, turns on the heater, gets under a blanket, thaws out, and goes home. And we use that in our film, on Secrets of the Supernatural, Voices from the Other Side. I believe it's the third film in the series. These sites, wherever you go, whether it's Ireland, whether it's Menga, Spain, whether it's the dolmens like Zambujaro in Portugal, or Cromac Amandres in Portugal, or it's like the megalithic structures on the island of Gozo in Sardinia, you don't do anything unless the Lord tells you to do it. You can visit, but you don't try doing something down.
We've just got a minute left. Joe Rogan has had a guy on. I can never think of his name, but he has a series on where he keeps talking about, 12,000 years ago, there was this moment or whatever. He's touching on this stuff, but obviously he's not where you are.
Christian, yeah. And I know who that gentleman is, and my hat is off to him. He's incredible.
Graham
Hancock.
Yeah.
Graham Hancock. He was on the trail much earlier than I got on it, and we owe a great debt to Graham. Because here's the deal: there's a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world. If I sat down with Graham, we would both agree that. And he's talking about the Younger Dryas era where something happens about 12,000 years ago.
Yeah.
It's called a global flood, and it was absolutely.
We're at a time. We will have you back because I knew this would happen. I want to keep talking to you for a long time. God bless you, Marzulli. We'll have you back ASAP, folks. Subscribe to my YouTube channel because obviously you just don't want to miss this stuff. Okay. Thank you. God bless you, LA. Thank you.
Take care. Thanks so much for coming here, folks. Really appreciate it. LAMarzulli.com, rungsofdisclosure.com, right here. Folks, if you've not read Vicki Joy Anderson's book, They Only Come Out at Night, you're really missing something. If you haven't read Karen Wilkes's book, Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest, you need to check both of those things out. If you're all interested in sleep paralysis, that's Vicki's book, and the abduction phenomena, Karen Wilkes's book. We carry them right here in our store, LAMarzulli.com. I'll be back again tomorrow with another show. Thanks for watching. God bless you. We'll see you soon.